as Harmeet Dhillon enters, by the way.
So this works out. Sorry to interrupt you guys, but
I really want to answer that question though, because that's important. So
we were thinking about Steve had I think it's another conflict, and but I think it's an opportunity to talk about solutions, because we talk a lot about problems, we talk a lot about hope, but I know that Harmeet is a potential solution. You got to grab the mic. I think Alex.
Alex,
I hope this still works.
It does.
Okay.
I think it does.
You're good. Yeah, sound great.
Hi.
I will answer that question,
having
Ian.
We will talk later.
All right, okay. Because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.
Harmeet, what's happening?
Well, it's been a pretty busy 2-week campaign for chair of the Republican National Committee, and so it's been pretty nonstop.
We were just talking about Jesus Christ and spirituality right as you were walking out, so there's a lot of
things happening.
Yeah, so it was a lot of energy.
Ian's had this transformation now, telling people like where all of a sudden he's talking about the importance of God.
Do you believe in God?
Absolutely.
What do you think it is?
Well, God is the creator. God is over all of us.
Yeah. We can't see Harmeet's face. Lower that down more. There.
Oh, and then do this. Yes, spin that.
You could
God gives
tell
us
by-
guidance. God gives us life. And God gives us everything that's worth fighting for in this country and this world. Yeah.
Let's talk.
And just in the Christian view, just to answer your question, so Jesus claimed he was God. There is a misconception that Jesus never did that. He repeated the phrase, I am, especially in the book of John. The first verse in the book of John is, in the beginning was the Word the Word was God and the Word became flesh. This idea of the logos, right, which is rational speech, which is God, made in the image of God. And Jesus coming down in human form was he took the broken form that we became after original sin, because he loved us so much, to minister alongside of us, to show miracles, to then eventually die a death he did not deserve, to defeat death, so then he could be raised from the dead and we can have eternal life. Now the point is this: when we worship Jesus, we're not worshiping man, we're worshiping God that temporarily became man, lived a perfect life, and then gives us eternal life through what he did for us, something we did not earn nor that we deserve.
I'm concerned that a centralized authority wrote the storybook that tells us that he said he was God, because I never met him. I don't know.
No, that's fair, but it's not a centralized authority, because we have 4 different accounts, right, from 4 different people: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right? And so what's interesting is they actually reinforce one another and never contradict each other. The most interesting is actually Luke, because Luke continues his gospel in the book of Acts. And so Luke is writing it to his benefactor Theophilus, lover of God, who paid for him to actually go throughout the Middle East and saw it himself. Luke was a doctor. Luke was a non-committed person, right? He was like, there's something magical happening here in the Middle East. And so you're right, you've never met Jesus, but my belief is you can, because he is the living God, right? So that you can invite him in your life, and in a moment, you can have a spiritual transformation. Don't mean to hijack it too much, Tim, but
No
that's my metaphysical view, and Jesus will change your life, and you can be transformed in an instant.
Let's talk about solutions.
Sorry.
Let's talk about solutions, because
Harmeet is running for RNC chair.
That's right.
So what's going on? What's the plan?
Well, I don't think there is a plan unless we have a change in leadership at the RNC, and that's the problem, because for the last 6 years, we have lost successively. We've lost the House, we've lost the Senate, we've lost the White House, and we're losing our country. And the reason that I'm a Republican volunteer and activist, and I'm sure many of you are in this room as well, is because I love this country. I came here as an immigrant when I was 2 years old. My parents registered as Republicans when they were naturalized, and my whole life I've fought for these values. But I'm afraid that we have a lot of Republicans in positions of power today, including elected officials, including certainly some of my fellow Republican activists, who are in it for the wrong reasons, who are in it for ego, who are in it for self-gratification, who are happy to be the controlled, failed opposition. And America cannot afford that. And so that's the reason why I'm running, because I think I can do a better job. And I think that we need vision. We need a plan. We need a plan to deal with these crooked election laws. We have to adapt to overcome them. And we need to get rid of the corrupt consultant class that is controlling the failure in our party. I pledge to do that at the RNC.
So this Can I ask you just really quick, what would you be doing different right now? Your head right now, what's the first thing you do?
Well, I'd probably hire some great young grassroots activists to handle the voter registration, ballot harvesting, yes, and ballot curing in states where it's illegal. Scott Pressler is one of the guys who comes to mind for sure.
Absolutely.
The second thing I would do besides personnel, I would do something like an Elon Musk style, come in and say, look, are you hardcore about electing Republicans?
Yes.
Are you hardcore about liberty? Are you hardcore about winning? And if you're not, here's your 2-week severance check and don't let the door hit you, okay? I would immediately initiate a top to bottom audit of all consulting and vendor contracts at the RNC. Because from what I've seen, there is a tremendous amount of back scratching, fat, waste, self-dealing, and generally stuff that doesn't get Republicans elected. So with those two things, that's off to a good start. But then there's policy, there's other things you have to do. Fundraising is important. We fundraise by abusing our donors. We call them names. The puppy will die if you don't give money.
Yes.
If you don't give money, this person that you like won't get elected. And then we use it for different things. I think that's not ethical. It's not consistent with my values as an attorney. That would stop under me at the RNC.
Sounds great.
So this is so important because what you have to understand is when the left makes its moves, you're like, oh, the left, the left, the left. When the left makes its moves, it's making, again, I keep saying this word, a provocation. When that becomes real is when the conservatives are like, okay, we accept, we reify the thing that you just wanted to do.
Right.
So, they pass some horrific policy. And when conservatives are like, okay, that's just how it is now, they change what it means to have an election. And conservatives say, that's just how it is now. That's when it becomes real. That's when we've actually given away a piece of our country. So having somebody that's going to get in there and try to stand up and clean this mess up, this controlled opposition, hell, half of them are probably active participants, not controlled opposition. They're pretending. At that point, what you have to be able to do is you have to get in and get in the way of that because it's those people accepting it. It's the Republicans rolling over after Barack Obama passes Obamacare. They get, in 2016, Trump comes in on a mandate to get rid of Obamacare. What do? They're like, we tried. And then we're in this swamp of it. This is how it works. We don't lose our country until we give away the piece that they tried to take from us.
This is so important, and this is why I'm so enthusiastic about Harmeet and why I'm enthusiastic for anyone that's going to challenge the RNC, Mike Lindell included, right? And which is this, is that when you lose, you should not be rewarded. I know that sounds so obvious. That's the way we treat our football teams, our corporations, or anything functioning. And we should have won the Senate this last election cycle. And the Democrats gained a Senate seat, period. Kari Lake should have received far more support from national Republican organizations, and she did not. And look, I'm kind of a subject matter expert here. At Turning Point USA, we're super blessed. We have 150,000 donors. Many of you give us money, and we are good stewards of that money. In fact, we have a 100% rating from Charity Navigator, and our fundraising costs are right near 6%. The RNC's fundraising cost is 40%. So when you give money to the Republican Party, only 60% goes to programming. And then I have to read they spent $321,000 on flowers. They spent $17 million on donor mementos, $100,000 on clothing. Like, look, we run an organization, we run a really tight ship. That is unacceptable for the Republican Party to be doing. It's an insult to all of you that have donated to candidates, and change is needed immediately.
And I think people don't realize this stuff. I mean, I don't know a lot about the inner workings of the RNC or the DNC. It's only in the past maybe, half decade or so we start learning more and more about the inner workings. And now a lot of the stuff we're learning about what was going on, $300,000 on flowers. How much were they spending
in 1 year?
In 1 year.
No, so let me unpack this. So that shrieking sound you hear from the building at the RNC is a lot of consultants and staff there jumping to the defense of the chair. And I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. She probably knew about some of these things and thought, okay, this is business as usual. That's part of the defense is, hey, everybody does it. And then part of it is done by her staff. Including some of these consultants who are making themselves rich off of donor money, big dollar and small dollar donor money. But if you're so tone deaf that you don't realize that $700,000 worth of flowers over a 6-year period showing up on your FEC report when the Democrats spent $1,000 during that time is problematic and you're defending that, you are totally out of touch, okay? And blaming Trump, which is another line of attack that happened out of the RNC, they said, well, when the president is of your party, you pay for all the mementos, you pay for the Easter egg hunt, you pay for the Christmas parties. Actually, that's a separate line item. That's another $5 million that we haven't even talked about. $5 million of parties and White House stuff. But $500,000 or $300,000 worth of the jet expenses happened after Trump left office. So how are you blaming Trump for that? A lot of the flowers, a lot of the limos, $3 million worth of the donor mementos came after Trump left office. Guess what, guys? I'm a donor. A lot of you are donors. Do you want mementos or do you want us to win elections?
So here's a question I have. In terms of winning these elections, how do you convince this guy to vote for a Republican?
And I have a question,
Good
too,
luck.
to add to this, because Trump was just brought up. Today, he also officially endorsed Kevin McCarthy as the head of the GOP, another career politician, which, as you could see from the... Yeah, keep going. You don't have to stop. Keep going. Let him hear it. Let him hear it. All right. How do you guys deal with things like this? How do you address it? What's your reaction to this kind of latest news item?
Well, I'm going to say something, which is that if we had done our job at the RNC and also the leadership of the other two committees, and Republicans had a large majority in the House, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't be having this really awkward conversation about a 5-member margin, the Freedom Caucus, some of them not being happy, and this even being a conversation. We might have been able to freely elect somebody who was popular with all of the members, but because of this odd situation that if they don't go that way, a Democrat might win, I think that is sort of the only choice that Republicans have right now. Kevin McCarthy's better than a Democrat, and so he's from my state, so I have to be, a little diplomatic.
That's tough.
But look, I would say through the years of the last 6 years, there have been a lot of bad personnel choices. Yeah. There have been a lot of bad choices about who's around the hand of power, and here we are. And so I think we're going to make one more at the RNC if we just say, please, sir, may I have some more losing?
Yes.
I don't want that.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.